All right, let's dive into a topic that's on pretty much every parent's mind. How do we raise our kids to be independent? I mean, it's a goal we all have, right? But what if the path to get there is a little different than what we've always thought?
So, yeah, it's the big question. And when you ask it, our brains usually jump to the same classic answers, right?
We think about short charts, getting that morning routine down pat, and, of course, that really tough but super necessary step of just letting go, letting them try things, maybe even mess up a little. And look, all of that stuff is for sure part of the puzzle.
But here's the twist. What if focusing only on those actions, the things we can see, is actually missing the most important piece of that puzzle? What if the real, true key to independence is something deeper? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into. Okay, so first things first, let's just make sure we're on the same page here. When you and I say we want an independent kid, what does that actually look like in our minds?
Yeah, we picture a kid who's pretty self-sufficient, right? They can get themselves ready for school, they actually remember to do their homework without a million reminders, they clean their room, maybe, and they don't just immediately yell mom or dad at the first tiny little problem. And hey, these are all fantastic real-world skills. This is totally the classic picture of independence.
Okay, but this is where it gets really, really cool. It turns out developmental psychology gives us this completely new way of looking at it. It suggests that there isn't just one kind of autonomy. Nope, there are two.
And this distinction is, honestly, it's a game changer. On one hand, you've got independence. That's what we've been talking about. It's about separation, doing things without help. But on the other hand, you have something called volition. And volition is all about acting from your own genuine choices and values. So it's not just about being apart from us, it's about being authentically in charge of themselves.
This chart really helps visualize this whole thing. Let's break it down real quick. So that vertical line, up and down, that's about distance. Are they physically near you or far from you? Simple. The horizontal line, side to side, now that's the interesting one. That's their motivation. Are they feeling pressured or are they acting out of their own free will? See, a kid way up in that top left corner might look independent because they're not near you, but maybe they're just acting out of defiance or pressure. What we really want is to be on the right side of this chart. That's the sweet spot, where a kid does making their own choices because they genuinely want to, not because they feel like they have to. And this just nails the core idea, doesn't it? Think about it. A kid who cleans their room because they're scared of getting yelled at, sure, they're acting independently, but there's no volition there. Now, a kid who cleans their room because they actually like having a clean space and choose to do it, boom, that's volition. The action on the outside looks identical, but the reason why they're doing it, it's a completely different universe. And that's the goal.
All right, so if this deeper kind of independence, this volition, is what we're aiming for, how does that even happen? What's going on inside a kid's brain that allows them to make these genuine, self-directed choices?
Well, the answer really comes down to something called executive functions. The best way to think about it is like the brain's own little air traffic control system. It's that set of mental skills that lets us plan things out, focus, remember what we're supposed to be doing, and juggle a bunch of things at once. Basically, it's the brain's operating system, and volition is the killer app running on it. And it's not just one single thing, it's a whole bunch of skills working together. You've got the cognitive stuff, like working memory. That's just holding information in your head while you use it, and planning. Then you've got the behavioral skills, like emotional control and response inhibition, which is just a fancy way of saying thinking before you act. All of these have to work in sync. They are the actual specific tools a kid needs in their mental toolbox to make those awesome volitional choices. Okay, so we've got the big idea and the brain science. Now let's get down to brass tacks. What can we actually do? Here are some really practical tools to help build not just those skills, but that all-important sense of volition we've been talking about. This 4-step model is just fantastic, especially for younger kids. See, instead of just jumping in and fixing their problem for them, you walk them through a process. And by doing that, you're literally giving their executive functions a workout. Their planning, their flexibility, their ability to not just freak out. You aren't handing them the answer. You're teaching them how to find answers for themselves. And yep, we're back to chores. But now, with this new perspective, we can see them in a whole new light. A chore isn't just a task to get done. It's a training ground. It's where responsibility is built. Starting a toddler with just putting their toys away, that builds the foundation for a teenager who can cook a meal for the family. Every little step builds competence and, hopefully, that feeling that they are choosing to contribute.
That's volition in action. This brings us to another really powerful tool in the toolkit, and this one is all about letting the world do the teaching. There's this great quote from Dr. Laura Markham, who's a clinical psychologist, and she says that when you let kids experience natural consequences, it puts them on a direct path to responsibility.
And this idea is at the heart of a trend some people are calling FAFO parenting. Now, the acronym is a little blunt. It stands for figure it out and find out. But the principle behind it is solid gold. The whole idea is to let kids learn from the natural results of their choices, as long as it's safe, of course. So if they forget their lunchbox, the natural consequence is they're going to be a little hungry. That lesson sticks way better than any lecture you could ever give. Your role shifts from being the rescuer who always swoops in to being a guide who's there to help them figure out what they learn. All right, so we've covered the big idea, the brain science behind it, and some hands-on tools. But what's the end game? Where is all of this heading? What are all these little daily efforts actually building?
Well, they're building the foundation for a genuinely capable young adult. And we're not just talking about knowing how to do laundry, We're talking about the big stuff, managing their daily life, taking care of their health, building good relationships, handling money, planning their career, and even being a part of their community. I mean, these are the skills that really matter in the real world.
And really, this brings us full circle. The ultimate goal isn't just to send a kid out into the world who can do stuff on their own. The goal is to raise a person who acts with that sense of volition we've been talking about. Someone who feels a real deep sense of ownership and choice over the life they're building. It's their life.
So the big shift is moving away from just teaching separation and moving towards nurturing self-direction. It's about empowering our kids not just to survive out there on their own, but to do it with purpose, guided by their own values. So the question I really want to leave you with isn't just how do I make my kid more independent? It's how am I helping them build their volition?